Hi, and welcome to Clappia. In this video, we'll learn how to use the toggle switch available in Clappia. The toggle switch is used to show enable or disable options in your app, perfect for scenarios like notification preferences, approvals, settings, etc. Let's see how to use this better with the help of a simple example. In my dashboard, I will select this app. I've created an app called Employee Access Control that captures employees' details and the access permission that they require. And I'd like to show what permissions the employees need, maybe for a workspace, system, restricted area, or so on. And I'd like to add a toggle switch to show in my submissions if they have the permissions or not. For the sake of example, I have kept this app very small and simple. Now to add a toggle in my app, I'll go to Design App, where we can edit the application. You can see all the earlier fields. Now I'll click on Add Field and select Toggle. This can be configured on the right-hand panel. First, I'll give it a label, maybe Access Status. Next is the description. This is used to guide the user and it'll appear over here at the side. This description will be there by default. You can either remove it or add whatever text that you need. So let's say I give in my text, enable to notify team to grant access to the employee. Then we have the true value. The value that you give here will be stored in the submissions when the toggle is switched on. Similarly, for false value, if the toggle is disabled in the app, the value that you input here will be stored in the submissions. So for this case, the true value can be access granted, and for the false value, let's say access blocked. And finally, we have the default value. You can set the toggle to be on or off by default. For this example, I will leave it off, which is false. I'll save this and let's go to App Home to test it out. You can see the toggle has been added to the app with the description that I gave it, and based on your requirements, you can turn the switch on or off. And you'll also notice that the true and false values are not shown to the user. Do note that the toggle switch is not used to enable or disable any function. It is just a representation, and whose true and false values are stored in the submissions and can be used as a trigger using workflows. You will see that in a moment. Now, what if I want this field to appear in the app only if the employee is from the IT department? I can select the employee. Their details are automatically filled in. If you wish to know how to configure this to pull information automatically, I have used the Get Data from Other Apps block. There is a separate video on this in detail. I will link it in the description. So there are other employees that are not from the IT team, like so, for whom I do not need this field. Therefore, I can implement a display condition for this toggle feature. Now going back to the Design app, in the toggle's right panel, go to the Advanced section, and under Display this field if, you can give your conditions to make this field appear on certain conditions or requirements. If you're familiar with spreadsheet functions, we share a similar library and we can pull up field values through the variable names, which you can find at the top of every field in brackets. So now, display this field if at the rate department, which is this field, equals to IT. It is case sensitive, so do make sure about that. I'll keep this option retain value if hidden as enabled, and I'll save this. Or taking another example, what if I want another field to appear if the toggle is enabled? So I can add another field, maybe say a multi-line text. On the right panel, I'll give it a label. Let's say reason for access. Save it. Now I want this field to appear if the toggle is enabled. So again, for this field, I'll go to the Advanced section and under Display this field if, give a display condition. So at the rate access status, which is this field, equals to, now this should be the true value, which is granted. And if I go back to the toggle feature, you can see the true value I've given is granted. So if you want other fields to appear when the toggle is switched on, you will have to give the true value over here, also keeping this enabled. Now let's go to App Home and check it out. You can see the toggle feature is no longer visible in the app. Now let's say I select an employee. Since this employee is not from the IT department, the toggle feature does not appear. So I'll select another employee and the toggle feature appears. Now if I were to enable this, the multi-line text block appears. Now let me make a submission just to see how it looks like in the Submissions tab. I'll just give a random submission and click on Submit. To view all your submissions, you can go to the Submissions tab if you have the appropriate access. Workplace admins will have the access by default. In the Submissions tab, click on a submission and a right-hand panel will appear capturing all the details. You can see over here, the status has been captured, and if I close this and just scroll a little bit, you can see under the access status column, it gives me the true value, which is granted. If I were to disable this, and save it. Now it says blocked, which is the false value. Now, based on this value, I can use it for other purposes. Let's say in workflows. I can use it to send an email to the right team to grant the employee access based on the toggle value. So if they have been granted access, I can send an email notification. Let me set that up quickly. I'll go to Design App and head over to Workflows. I click on Add Step. Now I need to check for the condition if the toggle is enabled or disabled, which means to check for the true or false value. So I can use the if condition node, and on the right hand panel, I'll give in the condition, again similar to spreadsheet functions. So I'll type in @action status, which is the toggle field, equals to the true value. So only if it is enabled should an email notification be sent out to the team. Now I'll configure the email workflow node on the right panel. There is a separate video on the email workflow node as well. If you wish to check it out, it will be linked in the description. Given the subject, then the body. I have filled in the body and I've pulled in some field variables over here from the app, and I'll simply click on save. So now if I were to make a submission, the workflow will get triggered. It will check if the toggle is enabled, which means it will check for the true value, and if so, it'll send out an email notification. For the sake of example, I have given my email address. Now let me make another submission. I'll enable this and click on Submit. If I check Submissions tab, you can see the access status is granted and I would have received an email. So I'll just open my inbox. And over here, you can see I have received an email. It has also pulled in the values dynamically from the body. This feature will also work on the Clappia mobile app. If you haven't downloaded it already, you can do so either on Play Store or App Store. And the moment you create your app or give access to your users, it'll be live and ready to use. So I'll just show you that really quickly. Over here, I have my mobile screen with the Clappia app downloaded. So I'll go ahead and click on it. I'll click on the Employee Access Control app. You can see it is live and ready to use, and you can also notice that the toggle feature is not visible in the app because the employee details have not yet been selected. So if I select the employee, since his department is IT, the toggle feature has appeared. I'll enable this, and the multi-line text block has also appeared. And I'll click on Submit. Since I've enabled the option, I would have received another email. So let's go back. I have received another email. And going back to my Submissions tab, if I refresh this, the latest submission has been captured over here. So in this way, you can set up the toggle feature. If you have any questions or need help in configuring the toggle feature, feel free to reach out to us by clicking on Request Support. Thank you.